When we speak about humans and AI coming together to solve problems, the narrative and the focus for Hollywood and mainstream culture is a doomsday scenario. Technology is here to eat us, and it's going to be a negative consequence. My question to you is like, why do you think that is the case? Why do we think the worst about technology, and why has that been programmed into us when it also could be the complete opposite? And some may argue that it has been the complete opposite in the last 100 or 1,000 years.
Reflecting back on as what I've learned in life, I would say that it's a roundabout way to get to your question. When I was in my early 20s, I started reading a lot of behavioral economics and specifically learning how flawed my mind is. I learned that I had over 188 cognitive biases, so distortions of reality that my brain actively makes on a daily basis, and I'm oblivious to it. I wasn't aware. Prior to reading this literature, I had this default assumption that I was rational and consistent, and I could see other people's flaws, that I was the one that was coherently understanding the world. And when I started poking into this material and I realized how flawed my cognition was, and even my internal dialogues, it fundamentally changed how I understand myself and the world. And so every thought that landed into my brain, I didn't treat it as right. I treated it as, oh, interesting. Let's see what you've delivered up, and how many biases are attached to this thing. And then I also started, at the time, learning a lot about systems and how we are born into systems that we are oblivious to. So, like for example, I was born into a religion in a small town, and the entire apparatus of my existence were the rules and social systems of this thing. And unless you actually take time to pull back the layers of the onion, you don't really know. And so when you pose the question of, why would media take a topic like artificial intelligence and create these narratives, and why would people respond that way, and then why are these things forming? To me, the most beneficial thing to do is to understand it as what's happening in individual minds, what's happening in collective minds, which systems are producing it, and why it's interesting. And so, in short, instead of listening to what they're saying, to dissect the systems that are creating those things, to see behind the curtain. Oftentimes, it's not interesting to hear what someone has to say. It's interesting to understand why they say it.
So, by that same token, why is media saying that technology is bad?
I mean, there's a lot of, I'd say, okay, we're going to start trying to peel this thing back. Their motivations are for views and clicks. And fear is one of the very best ways to go about doing that. Artificial intelligence is new and foreign, and everything new and foreign triggers a response in our brains that we're scared of it. So that's just a natural human response. So it's a knee-jerk reaction of fear. It's narratives that are popularized. It really it energizes people to debate these things. So it not only a fear response, but people jump in on both sides and take hard edges. So it feeds the systems of human reaction that we have in society, and it's like this phenomena that we see in social media today. You drop a controversial topic, the world splits in two, and the arguments that form on both sides form pretty quickly, then are cemented, and then it just is just back and forth. And it's almost of such a predictable nature and unproductive in so many ways that this tribalism is the thing that just fuels us. And so, it's maybe it's something we should really be thinking about, is these default systems, I mean, this is kind of some of the thinking behind Blueprint is we have been the same Homo sapien for hundreds of years, thousands of years. Not much has changed. Our technology has changed, but we, in our basic construction, have not. And I think that's about to change, and radically so. And if we were to reimagine what it would be like to be human, the discussions we have about things that are foreign, like new technologies, might take on a very different form. But I guess in the end, I do wonder. My imagination goes to, what if we really considered ourselves to be on the same team, all of us? What would that look like? Like how much of our energy is spent in fighting each other and in violence and jealousy and other things? Not to say those things don't have attributes in terms of people competing. They certainly do. But I don't know, it's an imagination exercise I enjoy experiencing, because I don't think it's unimaginable if that could be a possibility.
Do you believe then we would need some sort of common enemy that was outside of us? I can imagine a world in which aliens come about or there's some external force that's threatening us. You saw this in COVID in some respect, where there was an external enemy that humans could then surround themselves with and promote positivity within each other too. And that was a beautiful thing to witness.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're identifying that given the current configuration of Homo sapiens, it takes an exogenous shock like aliens or COVID or something, aliens in movie or COVID in reality, to unite what was previously a group of tribal behavior. And so I think that's true today, but if you change the basis of that and you say, okay, you're no longer dealing with the same human configurations, that's changed, maybe exogenous shocks are no longer needed. And I suppose that's a question I'm interested in, is I'm not sure it's a reliable assumption to say that we can imagine us being the same as we are now in 10, 20, 30, 40 years. Some of the fundamentals about being human may change in a meaningful enough way that these exogenous shocks are no longer needed to be the thing that breaks down tribalism.